Hello gainers and philosophers, Ralphie here with a little bit more fitter philosophy, sharing my experience and what I've learned in life with you, because it may help you with your journey in life. Simple as that. Keeping it simple, keeping it practical. And my subject today is gravity. But before I talk about that, I better make sure that I've actually put my microphone on and this is actually recording, because now that I've started the video, I've forgotten whether I've done that. These things happen. It won't be a minute. While I'm checking, I'm going to give you a beautiful view of a local river. Microphone's on. How are you? Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. In my last video, I talked about, excuse me a second, very spiky plant with these beautiful yellow flowers that smell of coconut and pineapple. It's called gorse. It is actually quite a medicinal plant, and also an incredibly spiky plant as well. It's one of the important natural flora of where I stay, and it's useful to check these out, not just the Latin name and whether they're medicinal or not, but the actual symbolic significance in earlier cultures, because we can learn a lot from that. Anyway, I'm not going to get distracted any further. This video is about gravity, and in my last video I talked about the art and the simple usefulness of stepping aside wherever we are, whatever we are doing, just to take a few minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to sit down in silence and just contemplate nothing, to breathe steadily, to settle ourselves, to clear our fuddled heads of all the daily grind and stuff. It's not quite meditation, but it's a precursor to meditation. And one of the consequences is we become increasingly aware of gravity. Now, gravity, quite literally, keeps us grounded. It is an energy which science can't quite fathom, but I can tell you that it is connected to the ether. And the ether is the constant morphic vibration across the universe. Right? I'll leave it at that, because there are many conventional scientists who think I'm going way too far, and there are people in power who really don't want this sort of thoughtfulness being thought too much. Anyway, across to the bridge. There's a bridge over there. It's not a big one. Gravity is when we are in a mindful situation, when we're taking time out and clearing our thoughts. We become more aware of the reality of what's around us, not the way our imagination creates stuff and infills what's really there with fiction and fantasy, but the sounds, the smells, the tastes, the temperature, everything that's actually around us. And we become more aware of ourselves as singular individuals, as spirits travelling in the shell of a physical, biological body. It isn't complex, it can be quite fleeting, but it's very useful to be aware of our gravity, because it has more substance than first appears. It greatly assists us in Stoicism. Right, well, yeah, we're back to Stoicism. Stoicism, rather than applied philosophy, is simply a practical human response to the environment which is life. Simple as that. Excuse me a second, that's better. I don't want this camera waggling too much. Gravity is refined common sense, where common sense gets increasingly better common sense. It's growing awareness of our natural spirituality beyond religion. Gravity is an increasing awareness, and this doesn't happen suddenly, it happens slowly over time, amplifying the quality of our lives, taking us from existence to living. And there's a huge difference. Many folk around us just exist and partially live, but they don't understand and they're too frightened to fully live. It's one of the reasons for distraction of media. But gravity gives us a greater sense of self, and with that greater sense of self, we start to notice our weaknesses more and our strengths more. And then we discover how we can address our weaknesses and improve our strengths. And it doesn't need to happen dramatically. In fact, it's highly unlikely it is. But just a little bit all the time makes a big difference over time. And that's the fact of it. Gravity is where we become more conscious of the self, and in doing so become more conscious and receptive, practically, rationally, but also emotionally, to the world around us, and as a result of this, to the universe in which we live. In fact, what happens is our connectedness to the misunderstood and non-understood reality of the universe becomes greater. And it's not something we can write down in pen and paper. Often it is instinctive and it is emotionally led. But this is a mature emotional. It's not just laughing, crying and all the rest of it. It's more complex than that. It's more systematic than that. And this is something I'm going to come back to before too long, is discussing in a bit more detail the range of human consciousness, and how consciousness can in fact be amplified by little practicalities or a few exercises, nothing complex. And one of these is that the dogs are out for a run. They'll love the sunshine and they love to chase their ball. And it's a beautiful sunny day. I'm going to show you the seashore. We've got this far, so I've got to show you the seashore. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And don't worry, there's no pirates in the vicinity, so I've got nothing to worry about. But I conclude this video with a summary. In my last video, I mentioned stepping aside, making time for ourselves, and doing so on a regular basis. Disconnecting from the mass and the media around us completely. No phones, no computers, no music, no headphones. And when we do step aside, we start to become aware of the gravity, the personal gravity in our lives. And it's a small thing and it's intangible, you can't really get a grasp of it, but over time you'll get more and more of a small grasp of it. As they say, ask any mountaineer, do you know what? How do you get to the summit of a mountain? A mountaineer will tell you, you stop counting the small steps and you just keep walking. Simple as that. Enjoy the view.